Hey there, fans of the Survivor Super Fun Time Show. This is Kevin from the Super Fun Time Show. Last night was episode 10 of Survivor 47. It was an awesome episode. There's a lot of fallout that we really had to check in on. I mean, we had to see the fallout of the Tribal Council where Saul was voted out, which obviously is going to upset Teeny because Genevieve's the one who did it, kind of separating Lavo a good bit there. You have to worry about like what's happening for the future with Tuku now that they have 4, a clear majority over any of the other tribes. And you have to see what exactly is going to be the future of Gada, especially with the little villainous Andy running around all over the place. What does that look like? And we're going to talk about all those things in this upcoming video here. First, I want to say hit the subscribe button to this channel and the Super Fun Time Show. We'd love yapping about Survivor with you. So please hit the subscribe button, and also be giving away a Survivor buff to anyone located in the United States. If you are a subscriber and leave a comment down below, you'll be entered into the contest. Now, getting into the episode, for this recap, I'm not going to necessarily be sequential, but I want to talk about some of the biggest things in the episode. Like, before we get into the relationships and the actual voting, I want to talk about some of the game mechanic things that came up that I thought were really interesting and possibly precedent setting in the future. Now, going into the immunity challenge, this was the rice negotiation episode. Jeff Probst brings out a giant bag of rice and says, listen, I need 4 of you suckers to sit out so that you can take a big bag of rice that's going to last you the rest of the game. Who is willing to give up their shot to sit out? And pretty much no one was willing to do it. And instead, they tried a negotiation, but Kyle of all people, he suggests, what if we give you all of our shots in the dark? Now, for all of you who don't really remember what the shot in the dark does, that's basically kind of a 1 in 6 chance, although the odds I think can fluctuate a little bit. It's a little die that each player has. They're issued 1 they get to keep, and they have to physically use it at a tribal council. If they have no other options, they can give up their vote, that tribal, use the die instead, take a scroll, and hope that they can be safe in the end. This is a mechanic that was introduced in the new era that Jeff Probst, I think, loves. Now, it's unlikely it's ever going to work. That's why it's called a shot in the dark. But it is a lifeline potentially for someone who knows they have nothing left in the game. Kyle offers all the shots in the dark, and Probst is dumbfounded. I think Jeff knows that this is a really valuable tool in the game. I mean, he's the one that greenlit it to be in there. So when right off the bat, it was offered every single one of them in the deal, Probst is going to accept that. Thankfully, for a little while, Sam was the only one that was like, yeah, I really don't want to do that. Now, other people were on the fence, like Teeny, classic Teeny move to say, I'll do it if everyone else is going to do it. And that's not really committing one way or another. Now, Sam didn't want to do it. Smart on his part, because it is so valuable. The shot in the dark is so valuable. Will it work? Probably not, but it is a bargaining tool. We've seen people be innovative with shots in the dark in the past. We've seen people like Andy or Brando from season 45 take their shot in the dark and give it to someone as a sign of trust, saying that, like, I know I'm in the bottom and you want me to be with you. I'm letting you know I will not play my shot in the dark and I will be voting with you, okay? So that was innovative. Rachel this season, she played her shot in the dark not so that she could actually be immune, but instead so she could see if she needs to use a hidden immunity idol. But with this negotiation, once Sam basically said, fine, I'll give in, which was smart on his part, because once everyone else says they're in, you can't really fight against it. Even if you are feeling kind of on the bottom, then you will definitely be on the bottom. So they give up their shots in the dark, which I think Probst cannot believe that happened. And now they have rice, but none of them have safety in that form any longer. And the question is, was that a silly move by the castaways? My answer is yes. I think it was a silly move, even though it was unlikely it would work. I mean, the immediate smirk from Gabe, who was really the one pushing the issue in the end, that everyone give them up. The idea that he's like, listen, we're 1 vote away from Tuku being at least a tie compared to everyone else left in the game, because there'll only be 8 left. If we can get rid of someone right now, that means we don't have to worry about shots in the dark for the rest of the game. And that's huge. I think it could have been considered really smart by someone like Gabe to push everyone to get their shot in the dark off the table. Now, even like you can sit right now and go like, haha, Gabe by the end of the episode ends up getting voted out. So I'm sure he feels salty about that. No, Gabe didn't think he was going home. So the shot in the dark wouldn't have helped him anyway. So it didn't really matter. The only one who this net benefited in the end was Rachel. Rachel had already burned her shot in the dark. She had literally nothing at stake in this negotiation. She didn't have to say yes or no. She didn't have to encourage or discourage anyone in this circumstance. And she got the rice that she had been looking for ever since like episode 2. So Rachel honestly ended up as the big winner of this whole deal. And everyone else, I think, failed. And the number one reason why they failed the rice negotiation Why did Kyle offer every shot in the dark initially? Why did he start with that? Instead, it should have been like, we'll give you 3 of our shots in the dark. He should have said 2, and then I think Jeff would have probably brought it down to 4 eventually. But you should have started with that. I don't know why you had to go with every shot in the dark. My answer is the players don't see the shot in the dark to be that valuable. And it's interesting because Probst does not see it that way. Of course, Genevieve later on in the episode is like, I kind of wish I had my shot in the dark now. We all live and learn, Genevieve. And I do have to say, like, Kyle suggesting it, to me, that is a suggestion of a player whose head is not totally in the game and who has only been vulnerable like twice the entire season. I mean, this guy just keeps winning immunities. So yeah, no wonder why he's the one who's like, well, a shot in the dark is pretty useless. I mean, why don't you just get yourself an immunity necklace every time like me? So yes, overall, I think the shot in the dark decision was probably not a good one by the castaways. But going into like kind of a hot take number 2 of the episode that I got from it is they have the immunity challenge where Kyle wins. Kyle beats out Sue in a concentration and balance type of a challenge. And before I get into the thing that's a little more hot takey for me, I think a lot of former castaways like Natalie Anderson from Survivor San Juan del Sur and even like Sophie Clark from Survivor South Pacific, they looked at some of the stills and they're like, oh, Kyle cheated. He was balancing the plate on his forearm. But if you really go back and look, they're balancing the plate on everyone's forearms for the most part. I know Gabe did it. Teeny was doing it. I think Probst allowed it. So getting that out of the way, Kyle didn't cheat. Kyle rightfully won his 4th immunity necklace. 4 necklaces for Kyle. Amazing. However, I think he only has 3 individual immunity wins. That's what I count it as, okay? Because Probst made a big deal to hype it up in the moment. He said, there's this elite club of immunity winners. There's only 5, 5-time winners. You know, you're on the path to being in that club. But the thing is, I can't put Kyle in the club with, Tom Westman or Terry Dietz or Colby Donaldson. I can't put him in that club yet. No matter how impressive he's been, and he's projected to do even better than them. The one necklace that he did win, he came in 3rd place. He didn't come in 1st. He came in 3rd. He got the 2nd place necklace. And I know it will count in the record book as a 1st place necklace, but it's really a 2nd place necklace. And all those people that I had mentioned before, Colby Donaldson, Australian Outback, Tom Westman in Survivor Palau, Terry Dietz in Survivor Exile Island, they had all 1st place necklaces. So they are not all made alike. And as much as I love Kyle, and I think he's great, and I hope he continues to do well, it's actually pretty freakish how good he is. It's one of those things where my dad would say, son, there's show muscles and there's muscles. Kyle has the regular hardcore muscle. And someone like, sorry, buddy, Q has show muscle where he's not able to win challenges, but he looks pretty good. Kyle, he looks like Shaggy Doo, and he still ends up winning everything. Now, those are more along my like hot takey things, but from a relationship standpoint, the reason why Genevieve needed her shot in the dark is because the fallout of the Sol vote. I don't really understand why Genevieve did it. She said it was because of revenge for getting rid of Rome. But I don't know if that was a good answer in the final 9 or the final 10, because you're really thinking like, all right, well, maybe they slighted Rome in the past, but they seem to be on your side, Teeny and Sol. So at least right now, maybe you don't make yourself the tallest flower in the garden, because the tallest flower in the garden gets plucked. And Genevieve, after getting rid of Sol, orchestrating it, everyone put her on alert. Everyone knew. Maybe Teeny was technically on the bottom, but I didn't hear anyone mention Teeny's name this episode. I heard Genevieve's name a hell of a lot more than I heard Teeny's. So was it worth it is the question. And then add in the fact that you willingly gave up your shot in the dark. Genevieve, I expected so much more from you. The only thing I will say is that I'm getting justified in my belief that despite how great Genevieve is, because I can't let that be lost, Genevieve is amazing. I love you, Genevieve. But based off the edit, the first couple episodes, she was non-existent. It was right that she was wearing a candy cane stripe like Waldo, because we did not know where she was or who she was. Until episode 4, I knew she probably was going to win because editors usually don't purple the winners in the first couple episodes. So it's a shame, but it looks like she's finding ways to take herself out of the game a little too early. Her end is also near. Will it be next episode? Maybe not. Will it be in 2 episodes? I think so. Because Teeny's not going to take that lying down. And Teeny explained very perfectly exactly what their situation is with Genevieve. It's like, all right, this vote, maybe we have to get rid of Gabe. And even though I want to get rid of Genevieve, I probably have to get rid of Gabe. And then next round, that's when Genevieve is the target. And as a side note, I really appreciated the segment on Teeny talking about their identities and their sexuality. It was really interesting because, Survivor's a microcosm of the world in itself and out there on the island, which I think that's probably a good spot. I think that stuff is a little less important out there. However, every part of it plays a factor in the game. And how they were like mourning the end of the relationship with Genevieve and Saul, I thought it was really sweet. And that ending of the relationship with Genevieve was actually really interesting to me because I didn't realize there was now this like dynamic between Teeny and Genevieve, kind of like Ricard and Shan from Survivor 41, where Teeny's trying to say like, well, I'm not going to lie to you. And Genevieve said, well, you're going to have to lie to me in your game if you want to get to the end. Which Genevieve just got done drawing a line in the sand by voting out Saul, and then right after draws another one in the sand when Teeny's trying to like build a bridge, which I thought was interesting. To me, Teeny was entirely the victim in the circumstance, and it felt like, and maybe this is over analytical from my viewpoint, that Genevieve couldn't get out of her own way this episode. So I definitely think Genevieve's going down while Teeny is only going to go up. And the other part of the strategic aspect is if all of Tuku makes it through this vote, they end up getting to a situation where it's the final 8 and there's 4 Tuku. So they can at least tie every single vote. Now, there are idols out there. Rachel has one. But it's precarious position for everyone that's not in Tuku. So Gabe, who was the one that was holding the reins of Tuku, was obviously trying to make it so that they move forward. But in the reward challenge, Kyle, Sam, and Rachel won, and they got to have a feast together. And while doing that, Kyle actually threw out Gabe's name because Kyle is aware enough, which I wasn't sure about, that Tuku's not going to be able to continue moving forward, especially Gabe and Kyle together. So he throws out Gabe's name, and Gabe throws out Kyle's name to everyone else that is not at the reward. So it creates an interesting situation where they're starting to go for each other, which was smart, but this is pre-immunity challenge, and of course Kyle ends up winning. So the question is, does it end up being Gabe or Genevieve after some of their blunders? And we thought maybe it would be Tuku sailing strong, except for Caroline. Caroline decided in the moment, she said, I cannot continue forward with Gabe. The idea of a final 3 with Sue, myself, and Gabe, not as attractive as some other options. And this is the move I've been waiting for ages from Caroline, because Gabe is someone that's great to have around. He's a good attack dog. He's a good shield in order to take bullets for you and your alliance. Because like ultimately, even though he's got a lot of ability and he's great, he's probably not going to get to the end because he's too loud of a player, right? And that happens all the time. I'm accusing Genevieve of being too loud of a player right now, but Gabe has been for like 4 votes. I think that Caroline putting a target on him, huge idea. And add in the fact that she wants Sue really close to her, but Sue was really close to Gabe. So if I don't get rid of Gabe, Sue will never truly treat me as a number 1, even though I know that her idol exists and Gabe probably doesn't. So Caroline turning it around on Gabe, making it so that at Tribal Council, Gabe is the one voted out of the game and Sue's the only one that doesn't know what's happening. I thought that was brilliant on Caroline's part, although she does have an issue. Next episode, she's got to wrangle Sue back in. But thankfully, I think she will, because I don't think Sue's a very strong player. I like Sue a lot. She's going to be good at challenges. Obviously, she found an idol, but some of that stuff is just luck. I don't think she's going to run away because I think she's going to be afraid. Now that Gabe's gone, I think she's going to bunker in with Caroline now and try to move forward, which is perfect for Caroline. Great move by Caroline. Like that move catapulted Caroline for me, maybe to number 1 in contention to win the game right now. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But brilliant move by Caroline. Absolutely loved it. I'm sure it'll pay off really well. And obviously, I can't get out of this recap without talking about Andy. Andy is someone that I think is really polarizing for a lot of people. I think a lot of people don't really like Andy very much. I mean, he had a terrible first impression, and first impressions mean a lot. But ever since that first impression, I mean, Andy's reads on the game have been nearly perfect from what we've seen. They've been outstanding. Andy realized that Sierra and Sam didn't take him very seriously. Other people, I think, don't take him super seriously, but everybody wants to use Andy in the game. And Andy looks like he wants to use them too. And I think it's great. It's really fun seeing these like villainous confessionals and seeing how we can get all his inner thoughts. He's actually like, he is brilliantly laying out the game. I admit it. I love it. Maybe more than anyone else. But the problem is, despite how many moves he makes, and I think he'll get to the final 3, no matter how many things he does, I don't think the other players respect him that much. Like, even if he gets to the final three and he's like, I orchestrated this, I flipped on this group, and I knew it was going to be that way, I predicted it all. I think if he gets to the final three with like Caroline, or I mean, God forbid, somebody like Sam with that kind of charisma, I don't think the jury is going to either believe him or care enough to vote for him over two other people. So I think Andy's putting himself in a weird trap where he's great for the audience. I think he objectively is playing a really good strategic game, but his social game is still wanting, you know? So I expect great things for Andy to get down to the final three. I just don't know if he has that oomph to get him there, because Sam and Rachel are two people that are fighting from the bottom, and they're great. Like, they're my favorites right now to get there. Like, I want them to get there so bad, but I know that they still have a big fight uphill. So let's hope it works out really, really well, because I think next episode is going to be awesome, and it's going to really give a roadmap of how we get to the finals. This is my fuck around and find out chart. It's a fun little segment I'm doing today. As you can see here, Sue is basically ground zero. She's not really effed around. She hasn't really found out because she's just there. She takes orders for the most part. Caroline's messed around a little bit, so she's a little over to the right, and she's not in danger of getting voted out, but, you know. Sam and Rachel are roughly kind of in the middle, you know, just kind of pootering along here. Then you have Andy all the way to the right, because he has screwed around a lot, but he's not really in danger of going anywhere. So he's sitting at the bottom, kind of like a cuttlefish. Of course, right to the top right, Gabe, who's just voted out, he found out all right. And you have Genevieve, who's almost in the find out stage. She's messed around a little bit, but she messed around a little bit too hard. So she's so close to the find out phase. And of course, Teeny's hugging the left, because Teeny's navigating the game pretty well, but still, there's some agency that needs to be found for Teeny. But what do you think? Did you like the episode? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to talk to you more about it. And let me know where you think everyone sits on my fuck around and find out chart, because I think I appropriately put them where they should be. Only a couple episodes left till Survivor 47 is done. Isn't that weird, folks? It's gonna be crazy, because there's a watch party this upcoming week in Philadelphia, which I'll be at, which is really fun. And we have the New York finale, of course, and some of the folks are going to be going to the Over the Edge celebrity event in Florida in December, which would be great. But other than that, man, like, we're almost at an off season on our way to Survivor 48. I don't want it to end. It's kind of like watching a child grow up. I don't want it to go too quickly, but at the same time, when you're in it, it feels like, oh my God, you know. Anyways, that's going to do it. Hope you have an amazing day, everyone. You take care. Goodbye.